Good morning, everyone. This is episode 205 now. Barry and Alec with you, coming up to 20 to 10. And what a beautiful sunny day we've got today. And on the show today, we're going to be talking about survival in the outback and the bush. Now, as you may recall, last week, a family in a white station wagon, a Commodore station wagon, on a video that Jack Absalom did. They were broke down and they came unprepared in the outback, and they only had a little amount of water. Now, joining me in the studio for episode 205. Good morning, Alec. Welcome to you.
Morning, Barry. Thanks for having me again on the show.
Well, today is a very important program about survival in the bush. Now, always make sure that you've got a good battery for your car and good tires, and make sure you know where to get it serviced, etc. Here's Alec now for his opening sequence on all of this important stuff.
Thanks, Barry. Yeah, that's absolutely right. So, as Jack says, making sure your vehicle is in good shape is crucial, absolutely crucial, particularly if you're going on a big trip out into the outback. And as you said, got to make sure your battery's in good condition so you're not going to get stuck somewhere with a flat battery. Got to make sure your tyres are all good. Yep.
Now, a flat battery is when you go to start the car and it goes Now, there wouldn't be enough power in the engine to turn the starter motor over, or to turn the engine over, but there's still enough power in the coil. Here's my offsider.
Yeah, that's right. So not enough to actually start the car, and then if the engine isn't running, you can't get it going again. You're stuck, and that's it. And there's almost nothing you can do at that point. I suppose if you're lucky, you could be parked in a place where you could do a hill start. That's possible, I suppose. But yeah, if you have any other problems, then you're stuck. So yeah, having a flat battery is it's catastrophic.
Now, if you have to jump start the car yourself, what you've got to do is turn on the ignition, and it's a manual vehicle. Put the car into top gear, jack the car up in the rear end, and then make sure you've got clearance to your hand, because this can be very dangerous. Here's my offsider.
Yeah, that's right. It's only something you can do in a manual, because you're forcing the car, the momentum of the car, to turn the engine over and start it, and you have to be able to force the car into gear. So it can only happen with a manual. And you're right, you've got to have some clear space ahead, and it can be a bit tricky and a bit dangerous. So you've got to make sure that you know what you're doing, and you've got plenty of clearance, and it's a nice safe space.
So once you hear a rattle with the wheel, okay, put the car in neutral and it will start up. Here's my offsider.
Yeah, so this is with the hill start. You're facing downhill. You put it into gear. You release the brake, so the car gets a little bit of momentum as it rolls down the hill, Then you let the clutch out, engages the gear turns over the engine and actually starts the process of sucking petrol into the engine and starts it going so that you don't need that battery to actually do that initial start. You're actually using the momentum of the car to start it, not the battery instead.
Okay, but if you need to push start it from the back, make sure you are very careful. Here's my operator.
Yeah, that's right. So if you're push starting it, then the people who are pushing are in danger, basically. So, the moment you let that clutch out, the car's going to lurch. It's going to stop suddenly as all of the momentum is converted into energy in the engine. And the people behind are going to have a big pushback. So you've got to be careful. In fact, you could almost get them to push and then stop, and then the driver tries to start the car with a hill start.
Okay, so never try to do this on your own. Here's my operator.
Yep, unless you've done it before or someone's taught you how to do it, it's a tricky thing to do for the first time. Better to do it with someone who knows what they're doing, someone who's actually done it before for sure.
Okay, because as demonstrated in the video, okay, Jack turned on the ignition, put the car into top gear, and then turned one of the rear wheels, and then a rattle. And like I just said, be careful when starting the car, and always jack the car up and shock the wheels. Here's my operator.
Okay, so this is an interesting one with from Jack's video. I actually don't know if I've seen him do that, but that's another interesting way of starting the car. And yeah, making sure that you've chocked the car is really important.
Now, another thing we're going to be talking about today is what to do in a car accident. Okay, we might get onto that now. Never try to upright an overturned vehicle. If it's upside down, here's my operator.
Yeah, that sounds like a really dangerous thing to do, doesn't it? You've got a car that, even if it's maybe on its side, but certainly if it's upside down, don't ever try to turn it over. That's a really dangerous thing. Cars can roll, they can roll back, and they're really, really heavy, so it sounds like a really dangerous thing to do.
And make sure that you keep away from fallen power lines as well. Here's my operator.
Yeah, that's right, because sometimes, particularly in car accidents, cars quite often will skid off the road, crash into a telegraph pole or a power line pole, and then they'll come down and then they're on the road, and there's 240 volts going through those power lines, so they're super dangerous. You want to stay away from them.
If you get electrocuted like bzzz, bzzz, it's really dangerous, so stand well clear, guys. Okay? And always apply the handbrake and turn off the ignition of the crashed vehicle. Here's my operator.
Yeah, that's right. So if you have had a crash, you've got to make sure everybody's okay in the crash, and then absolutely turn off the car, make sure that there isn't petrol going into the engine anymore. Turn off the ignition and make sure the handbrake is on, so it's not going to keep rolling. It's not going to, put anybody else in danger, and that it makes sure that the engine is not going to start up again. Or that there isn't still fuel, going through the engine. Okay.
And always ask your passengers, are they okay? And call an ambulance if anybody is seriously injured. Here's my operator.
Yeah, that's right. So if you're in an accident, or even if you see an accident, let's say you're just a pedestrian nearby, you see a couple of cars have an accident, you want to make sure that everybody's okay, and if somebody's hurt or trapped, then you want to call emergency services straight away.
Okay. It's okay to help, but once the emergency services arrive on scene, please leave the area. Here's my outsider.
Yeah, that's right. Once the professionals are there, you got to stay out of the way, let them do their job, and you don't want to be, crowding around, making it harder for them. You want to make sure that they're okay to do it and they've got the space that they need in order to do their jobs.
So we know that it is very difficult, and I know you want to give information to the police and fire and the ambulance and fire and rescue, but if they want to talk to you, they will do so later. Like you've probably seen on the news, that they will interview you about what happened and where the accident happened. Here's my outsider.
Yeah, that's right, Barry. So if they don't want you to talk to you, then leave them alone and just be ready to give that statement if they ask for it later on.
So, always make sure that there's no one trapped underneath the dashboard or seats. Here's my outsider. That's
right. So, as you absolutely say, Barry, the highest priority is to make sure everybody's okay, everybody in the car is okay, and so you want to look inside, see if everybody is accounted for and everybody's out of there. If there's somebody trapped inside, you absolutely want to tell the emergency services as soon as possible. And if someone is trapped under the back seat or under the dashboard, work out a way of how to get the back seat up. Here's my outsider. Yeah, that's right. If you can't wait for the ambulances or fire and rescue to come and do it, if they need help right now, try and figure out a way of getting that seat up. You know where the controls are likely to be. They're likely to be on the side of the seat or at the front of the seat. You want to try and move it forward to release them, to help them to get out. And also, if the front seat is pushed back and someone is trapped under the back seat, it can be really dangerous. Here's my outsider. Yep, that's right. So someone could be trapped in the back, not able to get out if they've had like a front end accident and the seats are pushed back onto them, they can be trapped in there. Their legs could be trapped or they could be crushed. It's important to try and help them to get out. And in most accidents, the job doesn't end very well. On a happy note, here's my outsider. Yeah, that's right. And I guess that's probably why you want to try to avoid them in the first place, so sort of defensive driving and trying to avoid getting into an accident, making sure you don't drink and drive, all of those things. Or don't go on long trips, guys. Yes, absolutely. So because if you drive halfway all night or all day, it's an accident that has all the ingredients for a tragedy. Like Jack said at the beginning of his survival video. Here's my outsider. Yeah, that's right. So you don't want to drive all night, get really, really tired. It's actually like you're drunk, driving so that you're so tired, you actually start to act as if you're drunk, and then you'll make a mistake and you're much more likely to get into an accident.
So every 2 hours, guys, stop, revive, survive. We'd like to hear your comments on all this morning. So Alec, say for example, what would you do if I was involved in an accident in the bus?
In the bus. Yeah, so, what you would want to do is you would want to, first highest priority is to make sure everybody is okay. Anybody inside the bus, anybody in any other car that was involved in, or vehicle that was involved in the accident. And probably you'd call 000 straight away.
So what would you do if I was in the bus and I was injured?
Well, I would try to make sure that you were, conscious. Are you conscious? Are you bleeding? If you had, so for example, if you had an injury and you were bleeding, I'd try and help you to stop the bleeding, and I would try and call for help. Right, get more people to come along and help, and get somebody to call an ambulance straight away, and then I suppose try and get you out, right? Because you don't want to be in there. I think it depends on how much damage there would be. Like if there was a lot of damage to the car, then you'd kind of be worried about it, and you would be worried about the engine, catching fire or something like that.
So guys, give your statement later to the police if they need it, and keep well away from the scene. And if a rescue helicopter has to attend the crash, please be mindful of them as well. Here's my operator.
Yeah, that's right. So sometimes they do have to bring a helicopter along, particularly if you're in a remote area, like you're in the outback, something like that. And if you are, then you have to make sure you stay clear and wherever they're going to land at, that there's good, clear space and that you stay well away from where they're landing it.
We're now getting back onto looking after the car while you are in the bush. Now make sure that you are your own mechanic and your own fuel supply. Here's my operator.
Yeah, that's right. So know a bit about your car, know some of the basic elements that need to be maintained and looked after, like as you said earlier, the battery and the tyres. Make sure you've got spare tyres and maybe some spare fuel, that kind of thing. So yeah, be your own mechanic.
And you must know how to fix a leak in your fuel tank. Here's my operator.
Yeah, so fixing a leak in a fuel tank is a really good one. So being able to tell that, yep, I'm losing fuel, how can I stop this? I actually don't know how to do that, Barry. Do you know how to fix a leak in the fuel tank?
Well, what you do is you get a cake of soap and then you rub it on the hole and then you fix it.
Right. Yeah.
So, say if you were traveling, 500 kilometers to Birdsville, you need to be careful of your fuel. Here's my operator.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a long way. Your car's probably not going to get there on one tank of petrol. And if something goes wrong, you've got to make sure you've got more fuel. And if there is a hole in your fuel tank, you've got to make sure that you know how to repair it, at least temporarily,
Until you get to the workshop.
Yeah.
Because guys, you don't want to be on the road to nowhere. Here's my outsider.
Yeah, that's right. You don't want to be stuck out in the middle of nowhere. You want to be able to temporarily repair your car and get it to the next populated area where you might find someone who can help you to fix your car, more permanently and properly.
And you may have seen at the end of one video, Jack took the tires off all his car, or Jack took the tires off the car because he had broken down and he couldn't get the car going. So what he did was he burnt a tire in the evening and a tube in the morning. We might even watch a bit of that video.
Yeah, that sounds good, Barry. So you burnt a tire?
And then a tube, so he had 5 tires and 5 tubes.
Yeah. And was that for a smoke signal?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So
Because it was too far for him to walk.
Right. So he's created a big signal with the smoke from the tire so that someone can come and rescue him.
Well, we might take a break now and watch some of that video. And this video took place on the Birdsville track. So stay with us, and Georgia will be with us sometime this morning too. So we've still got plenty more coming up on the show. Here's Alex.
Yep, plenty more to go. George is coming along, and we might watch that video on Jack's trip to Birdsville. Sounds good to me.
Okay, so another thing, make sure that you've got enough food and enough petrol, and put a cup of Menthol in your tank, okay? And make sure that you know that there is nothing wrong with the spark plugs or electricals. And always carry sufficient water. Here's my offsider.
Yeah, that's a biggie, isn't it? That sounds like the golden rule to me. Always carry sufficient water. Make sure you've got lots of spare water, just in case something does go wrong.
Well, we might take a break, come back to part 2, have a tea break after we've done part 2, and then we might now watch some of Jack's video. So we might do that now. So we'll take a break now and come back part 2 shortly. I'm Barry Fear. This is episode 205. And good morning to all of my viewers on YouTube from Sydney to Gosford, all around Australia. Like and subscribe to the show. Here's my outsider.
Yep. Good morning and welcome to everybody, and hello and welcome to all the viewers all over Australia.
And Cass, if you are watching, good morning to you up there on the Central Coast. We'll take a break and we'll watch some of Jack's video to Birdsville. Welcome back to part 2 of episode 205. This is Barry, Alec, and Georgia now. And welcome to Georgia. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And today we've been talking about survival in the bush And now we're going to talk about tires. Now, never drive with underinflated tires. And here now to open the second part of this important part of the show. Good morning to Georgia and Alec now.
Morning, Barry. Thanks for having us on the show.
Good morning, Barry. Good to be here for part 2.
And what you're seeing there, okay, is Jack holding an underinflated tire. Now, what is an underinflated tire? Well, it means that you've been driving around with not enough air in the tire. Here's my offside.
Yeah, that's right. So it's a very common thing when you've got a car. It's one of the things that you really need to stay on top of and think about. Like, actually, don't just rely on the car's tires being right all the time. You've got to think about, are they right as time goes by over months and years to make sure that they're the right pressures.
Okay, so let's just pause this and let Jack explain what has happened here. Be back with you in a couple of minutes, okay? Hang tight. Okay? Now what you've got to do is put the load on your car and pump the tires up to the right pressure. Here's my offsider.
Yeah, that's right. And as Jack says, in Australia in particular, you actually need maybe even a little bit more pressure to get the sides of the tyres away from stones, rocks that stick up out of the road. So kind of even more pressure in the tyre to make it taller and safer so that they don't get punctured.
Now, how would you like to be doing 100 k's on an underinflated tire? Now that would be pretty damn dangerous, wouldn't you say? Here's my offsider.
Yes, you definitely don't want to be driving on underinflated tyres, especially if you're out in the outback, where you have no places really to replace your tyres or anywhere that's out of the sun to be spending time changing them, because of all of the rocky surfaces. Going on an underinflated tyre is dangerous because it can puncture more easily, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, very dangerous.
Know which roads are suitable for driving your vehicle on, because this is really important. Here's my offsider.
Yeah, that's right. So different roads and different surfaces are suitable for different types of cars and different types of tyres. So if you've just got a little car, a little sedan or a little hatchback, it's no good for an off-road, dirt track with a lot of rocks and stuff. You've got to know which roads you're going to go on and what type of surface they have, and whether or not your car is suitable.
Okay, because what? Likely the Mitsubishi Sigma there, like Jack is driving, okay, it's not a four-wheel drive, okay? This is a standard station wagon. Here's my offsider.
Yeah, but it is brown.
And it is brown.
That's not standard. Well, maybe it was standard then, but it's...
Well, it's a brown station wagon, okay?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not a four-wheel drive. It's not, it's not an off-road vehicle. It's just a normal, everyday sort of city car.
And it's a family car too. So, like I said in the first part, okay, you've got to be your own mechanic, your own fuel supply, which we will show you in Jack's video also on how to fix a hole in the fuel tank. Now, if we go to the end of the video where Jack is broken down, I'll explain to you what has happened. So hang tight, we'll be back in a minute. Now, Jack had broken down. He couldn't get the car going. It was too far for him to walk. Here's my offsider.
Yeah, that's right. So Jack's stuck in the middle of nowhere, and it's station country, so there are farm houses, stations are in the surrounds, but they're too far away for him to walk to.
So like we saw, he had 5 tires and 5 tubes. Here's my offsider.
Yeah, that's right. And as you said before, what his plan is to gradually burn these tubes and tires, one in the morning and one in the evening, and they're his signal to the station owners around so that they come and investigate. They see the smoke and they're going to come and investigate and rescue him.
So if you cannot get your car going, guys, just remove all your tires and tubes and stack them up like Jack did. Here's my offsider.
Yeah, that's right. So he's taken them all off one by one, and he's gradually burning them. So in the morning he's burning an inner tube and making like a smoke signal in the morning, and then in the evening he's burning a tire, which is making a great big black cloud, and he's hoping that one of the station owners nearby is going to see this cloud and come and investigate and rescue him.
And now we're going to talk about the fuel tank. Now what just happened was Jack made a hole in the fuel tank and he popped the car up, but never get under the vehicle by yourself. You must have the right equipment to pop the vehicle up. And he had a special bag. So what he did was he put the fuel tanks under, the fuel cans under there and let the petrol go into that. Because like he said, there's no friendly service stations out there. Because he's bought in that car many times. Here's my offsider.
Yeah, that's right. So what he's saying is he's driving along, hitting the bottom of the car on these rough tracks and roads, and there's some damage there. So he had an amazing hydraulic jack to lift his car up, and then he put the fuel can underneath the car to hold it up. And then he's going to figure out how to fix a leak in the fuel tank.
So what you've got to do is have a cake of household soap, just a couple of flakes or some sand, and make it into a nice strong dough, okay? And then get under your car and bang it onto the hole. Here's my offsider.
Yeah, he just did it just right there in his video. He just scraped some soap, mixed it with some sort of sand or dust and some water, turned it into some paste, and then pushed the paste onto the hole on the fuel tank, and kind of amazingly, it stopped the leak.
And also, when you are in remote areas, okay, you've got to drop in at the police station and fill out a card, okay? Now, Jack was in Maria, when this happened, because it's very important that you drop in to your country police station. Here's my operator.
Yeah, okay. So I didn't know that before we started talking about it, but I guess he's saying you want to in remote areas, you let the local police know where you are, where you're going, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and then fill out a card, and then when you get to your destination, like Birdsville, always write on the board, okay, to say where you are, and say it's the end of your trip. Here's Georgia.
Yes, it's always important to let people know where you are in case you go missing for more days than you've let people know at home. So yeah, just let the police know, or if you're in a remote area, maybe on a board, or write a little sign to say that you've been there, so that people can track you down and make sure that you're okay and they don't waste time looking in places you haven't been if you do go missing, or if they suspect that you have.
And the police checked over Jack's car before he left the station. So let the police check over your car before you leave the town that you've been in, such as Marie. Here's my operator.
So they're checking it out, are they, Barry? So the police are checking out Jack's car to make sure it's okay before he moves on to the next part of his trip.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
And that night he stopped somewhere at a homestead, because it's not safe, ladies and gentlemen, in Georgia to drive right through the day and night, because this is how motorists get tired. Here's my operator.
Yes, it's definitely important to take breaks when you're driving, especially when you're driving in the outback where there's not a lot of visual stimulation. It all looks the same, as well as wildlife that could potentially come out and you can't see them until they hit your headlights. So yeah, make sure you take some breaks.
And make sure, like I just said, be careful of your fuel, okay, because there's no, like I've just said, there are no friendly service stations, and I'm going to read a script to you now. And I hope you The Australian outback can be a nice place, but can be very dry and hot in summer. Now what's happened here? A husband and wife and child have driven out into the outback in their Holden Commodore station wagon white into the outback unprepared. They had no idea of the danger that was before them. Also, they have not brought any equipment to fix the car. It sounds unbelievable to me. This chap cannot start the car. Now, in the heat, people in the outback would only last only 4 hours. But the way this chap has done it, he will probably only last 1 hour. And he would have become a very distressed person. He has left the wife and child back with the broken down station wagon. And he's going off to find help. But he has no idea where it is. This is how this family has ended up. There are no friendly service stations or mechanics. So he has to now work out how he's going to get the car started, and luckily someone else in the video called the Road to Survival to come along and try to fix the problem. The person who was trying to fix the car had found that they had paint, water, and petrol in the fuel filter. He's trying to work out whether to put a new filter on, but before the person discovered the problem, inside the station wagon was only the family's personal items and nothing else. Some people understand sitting right, but they don't understand life in the bush. Now that's an example of coming out into the outback unprepared, and it sounds ridiculous. That's another problem people find when driving in the bush. Sometimes they can get a flat battery, and sometimes you think, how am I going to get this car started and the battery recharged? This is why you have to be your own mechanic if you break down. How will you know how far the next service station is? How will you know where you're going to sleep at night? And have you found a place to sleep? Have you got enough food and water to last you, your wife and your child? Just think about it, please. That's coming out into the bush unprepared. Now going into the outback prepared. Before you drive your station wagon out into the bush, out into the outback, and you have to make sure you've got enough spark plugs, your jerry can full of petrol, and your esky for your tucker and your coldies, and make sure that you put some methanol in your petrol tank after you have refueled your car. Make sure you know how to jumpstart your car if you've got a flat battery and you're on your own. And another important question I'd like to ask, how will you know how to change a flat tire on your own? And how will you know where to connect your starter leads to the battery to start the car? That's the most important thing. Please remember that if you're on your own and you break down, you could be miles away from anywhere. The last thing I like to say is make sure that you've got enough water for you, your wife, and your child. Don't leave without water. It's very vital. Dehydration out in the bush can be deadly. It's also very important that you've got enough tools to fix the car and your first aid kit, and have a spare coil as well, because if you do the one coil that you have, that's it. You've had it. Makes common sense, doesn't it? And make sure you concentrate on the road and don't go into any potholes. Concentrating on outback roads is very important. Well, I hope that this story has prepared you and your family for traveling out into the outback and the dangers that lie before you. And make sure that you stop somewhere each time overnight, because you could be on the road for 1 or 2 days and checking at your local police station and tell them where you are going. You may have to fill out a card and say where you are heading to and the reasons why you are driving on a certain track. If you got bogged and you are furious, just sit down, boil the belly and think about it all. If you are furious, you've just got to get, if you are furious, hang on.
So there's a music going on.
If you got bogged and you are furious, boil the belly and think about it all. If you are furious after you just got your station wagon bogged, that is not the state of mind to be in. Just boil the belly, sit down and think about it all. Get down on your knees and try to get the sand away from the tires. And don't use a shovel, for goodness sake. And once you are out clear, you can drive the car out. So enjoy your trip. I'm Barry Fair. See you next time. To close this very important show today, we'd like to go over some of the topics we've talked about. Being prepared for the bush, how to drive your car in the bush, and where and what roads to drive on. Here's my operator.
Yeah, that's right. So being prepared before you head out, making sure you've got everything that you need, and knowing which types of roads and tracks that you're going to be driving on and where you're going.
And remember, guys, don't drive with underinflated tires. Please, for goodness sake, use your common sense. Here's Georgia.
Yes, it's very important to use your common sense in the outback, but also do some research, because you may not have been in that situation before. But yeah, things like underinflated tires are something you need to watch out for, as Barry said, and all of the other points he's made are very important to keep an eye out for.
And if you are furious, like I've just read out, after you've got your Mitsubishi Sigma station wagon out, don't go, just get out of the car, okay? Sit down, boil the belly, and think about it all. And have patience. Here's my operator.
Yeah, that's right. So there's no point in getting furious. There's no point in losing your temper. Hop out of the car, boil a billy, have a cup of tea or a coffee or something, and get a clear head, and be more calm and sit down and think about it.
Because like we demonstrated at the end of the Birdsville video, Jack could not walk to get home because it was too far for him. Here's my operator.
That's right. He was stuck in the middle of nowhere. He was in station country. He couldn't get his car going, so he had his last resort was to set up a signal, so that he could get other people's attention and they would come and investigate and rescue him.
So we hope that this important show that we brought to you today gets you and your family prepared. But remember, always set up a signal at the last resort. Here's Georgia now.
Yes, it's always important to have plans in place that mean that you can still help yourself and get out of a situation. But yeah, if you do need to have a last resort, it's important to know the steps to take for that, like Barry explained about burning the tires and tubes.
And also, if you have four-wheel drive and you're in a convoy, always make sure that you've got two-way radios and winches for your four-wheel drives. Here's Alec.
Yeah, that's right. Two-way radio, so you can talk to each other. So if something goes wrong with the person in the back, that they can call and say, "Oh, I've stopped," and get help. And winches, so that they can help each other, get out of one of them being bogged. They can winch each other out of problems. So yeah, absolutely, that's right, Barry.
So please, be responsible. Don't let everybody else take the slack if you are away on a trip. And make sure you know how far you're going, where you are going, and how far it is going to take you to get there. Here's Georgia.
Yeah, it's always important to do some research before you head out. Get all the details and let someone know what your plans are. And as well as Barry said before, if any of those plans change, let people know and check into the local police officers.
So, we hope that you've enjoyed episode 205 today. And one last thing we forgot to mention, consider the weather conditions too, and the condition of the road. Here's my offsider.
Yeah, that's right, and a biggie too. So you want to think about what kind of weather am I heading out into. If it's really bad, you may want to delay your trip. But otherwise, you might just want to take it into consideration. Maybe you might want to change the route that you take, depending on the weather as well. But yeah, it's another important thing to take into consideration when you're planning your trip.
And make sure you've got enough food and water to last you, whether it's for the weekend or a week. And make sure you've got enough clothes, batteries, everything. Your first aid kit. The whole kit and caboodle, because there is no turning back. Here's Georgia.
Yeah, it's important to be prepared, especially when you're going on a trip to the outback, because there's not a lot of resources out there, and as Barry said, you need to be your own mechanic. So make sure you've got all the gear that you'll need, and even if you don't use it, it's important to have it in case. Yeah, do your research and be prepared.
So this is where we'd like to end episode 205 by bringing all this important information to you. You have to be responsible. Okay, know whereabouts you're gonna get help, and know where your nearest medical center or hospital is. So if someone in the family gets sick, so we've talked about a lot of things today, what to do in a car accident, and things like that. And that is episode 205 for this today. Join us next week for another jam-packed edition. You've been watching episode 205. Thanks for your company on this Tuesday morning, and happy traveling. Have a good time. Enjoy your trip, and make sure you've got, make sure you've got enough battery in your mobile phone, and make sure you've got coverage. Here's Alec now for his closing message on this.
Yeah, thanks Barry. Thanks for having us on the show today. And yeah, absolutely make sure your phone's charged and you know what the coverage is going to be on your trip as well.
So on that note, it is time for us to bid good morning to you. I'm off to have a cup of tea now. Here's Georgia for a closing message now also.
Thanks for having me on the show, Barry. Good show. See you next week.
And please, compromise on where you're going to go. Have a map with you at all times. And get to camp before dark, not after dark. Get into camp, say, 20 past 4, so you've got enough light to set up. Here's Alec now to take us out with that message.
Thanks Barry. Yep, thanks for having us on the show. Get to your camp before it gets dark.
So we're off now to have a cup of tea and to put this exciting show on your screens. And this has been an exciting show today, and the number that we rely on 24 hours a day, only dial 000 or 112 in an emergency. And here's Jordan now to end the show with that.
Yes, as Barry says every week, 000 only for emergencies. Make sure that you're not wasting the government resources for people that are actually in an emergency and need help. So if you can get to the hospital yourself or go to the doctors or any other specialist instead of calling 000, that's always better. But yeah, 000 if you're in an emergency.
And we will be back with you same time next Tuesday morning. We know where we bring the show to you. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, time to get the old tea into us. Time to wet the throat with a nice cup of Dilma tea. And this program today has been brought to you by me, Barry Fair. This has been a Barry Fair production. See you next week, everyone. Thanks for watching episode 205. Episode 206 coming up tomorrow. Until tomorrow then, it's bye from Alec, Jordan, and myself, Barry Fair. Good morning, everyone. The time is 10 past 11, Tuesday, the 18th of May. And as Don Burke used to say, at the end of Burke's backyard, hello, thanks for your company, and we'll see you next week. Have a good rest of the day, everyone. Bye-bye.